So I was really debating which axiom to dive into today, and then it was in contemplation last night, thinking about a bunch of things in my life, and then it occurred to me, and Tony Robbins says it like this: what you resist persists. And it's kind of the idea that what you're applying pressure against applies pressure back against you. It's kind of go back to middle school, and it's Newton's third law, right? Third law. Yeah. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So we're talking about physical force in that sense, and in the same way that it works in physical force, it works in emotional, mental force. That the things that I apply pressure against, I tend to apply pressure back against me. So the pressure, this is the pressure axiom: the pressure begets pressure. Okay, so when I talk to someone, when I'm evaluating myself, and I'm thinking like I've got to try to do this thing, I got to try to stop doing this thing. Try is often the indicator word that you're in this mode, because you're trying to do something is an attempt to put pressure on. I need to try to stop. I need to try to start. And the very thing that I'm trying to stop presses back against me. I got to try to stop saying try. And the harder I push against it, the more that thought seems to want to come back and live in my space and occupy it. And so the model of taking a pressure out of your life is to remove pressure against it. So it's so counterintuitive, because then you have to accept one of the Eastern thinkers that I followed one time, and I can't remember his name, so I'm not citing him, said something like this: that you can have any thought you want to have thought. Especially when we get like in the spaces where the thoughts are clouding our heads, and we're not thinking clearly, and we're in a state of discontent. You're struggling against your thoughts. This is a great example of applying pressure against something that only then applies a pressure back on you. So I'm struggling against my own thoughts, and the more I try to stop thinking about a thing, the more that thing just shows back up and lives in my space. Right? So pressure begets pressure. That's the axiom. And so what the Eastern thinker said was, you can have any thought you want. You just don't have to invite it in for tea. Right? And so the idea was that when the thought comes to you, you accept it and say, hi, that's the thought. Welcome, thought. And now you can be on your way. And so by accepting it and then releasing it, the pressure stops. The thought is no longer there bombarding you, trying to get in, and you're pushing against it, and it's pushing against you. And so this is easy to say. And this occurred to me that as I'm sharing these axioms, you're like, oh, that's wonderful. Thanks, Dan. These are good things to know. The question is the how. And this is where the coaching comes in. This is where you have to spend time in these. You have to get them wrong a bunch of times to get them right. And that's just so dissatisfying, because you want to be able to just get a little bit of knowledge. I mean, like from a guy who read a bazillion books, I just want to get a little bit of knowledge and then let that be able to change the way I behave. But it doesn't. It doesn't change the way. The knowledge is the first step. So then it's the how. Those are the characteristics that got to be built in. And in order to build the characteristics in, you have to actually play in the space. You have to make some mistakes. This is another axiom I'll get to later. Kids with skin knees ride bikes. You have to have a few failures along the way and recognize, I've been pushing against that again, and it's persisting again. And the longer I stay in the space and I create an awareness of it and make the necessary corrections as they come, then I see the change happen over time. And again, I'll cite Simon Sinek's latest, or one of his videos, it's not latest. It's one of his videos out there where he talks about going to the gym, and you don't notice any results on the first day or the second day or the first week or the third week. But then suddenly a month or 2 months or 3 months down the road, you see this transformation begin to occur. And it's the daily routine of watching it. Okay, so let's go all the way back to the beginning, and let's wrap this up. Pressure begets pressure. The thing that I'm pushing against is pushing against me. That's invariable. That'll happen. That is as true as Newton's third law in a physical sense, that every action produces an equal and opposite reaction. And so the idea is, think about the idea, consider the things in your life that you are pushing against. Consider the things in your life that you have been applying pressure to try, to move, to create some change in some way. And the harder you pressed against it, the harder it's pressed against you. And when you release the pressure, it doesn't mean that you're letting it in your life. It simply means that you're stop pushing against it. You're accepting that it is, and then letting it be on its way. It's an entirely different way of being. Man, I could go for an hour on this, but I won't, because you guys will all tune out immediately. Thanks for joining me. It is Wednesday morning, and Axiom number 4 is what it is. Pressure begets pressure.